This is a mansion motif that's from my Village Street Row collection, and I'm going to start by, I've got my tropical set. You can easily use the woodlands or any set that you may have at home. This has some added colors, extras that I also sell at my shop in here, and you've got your paper towel ready to go. So I've mixed up this ocean and a little bit of palms or island to kind of get a nice little kind of turquoisey green roof here. And I'm just going to apply the paint across the whole motif, and then I'm going to add some details in here later. Pretty simple. We're just kind of filling all of that in, and then on mine I also had this little scallop edge in that same roof color. And I'm going to now do the outside in a gray, which I mixed from using ocean and hibiscus, or if you got the shadow in your other kit, or some kind of gray. If you want to use gray, you've got that there. It's kind of a blue gray, or almost like a Payne's gray, because it's got that blue as a base. You can paint this however you want. As I always say, you can create something completely different, do the same motif a few times, or paint with others and see what they come up with. That's fun too. And I'm going to do this little architectural detail here in that gray as well. Kind of pushing that pigment around just to even the strokes. You could put water down first and then add the pigment if you'd like it to be smoother. And now I'm going to do like what is the stucco around here and get started on that. I've mixed up tiki and coconut and a little bit of gray to get this look, so we'll see if I have enough. I want it to be very light, so I'm going to apply this to the edge. Oh, I barely have any, so I've got to spread this around and make it work. I'll put some here and here. Get some of that same pigment along. I'm squeezing a little water to make it go a little farther. And now over here, before this dries too much, I'm going to pull some of that pigment away and start moving it around. Watercolor for me is a lot of improvisation. If you look at professional watercolorists, they have a lot of planning involved in what they're doing to get the kind of desired look they have, and that takes a lot of amazing time and effort. And I'm doing this as a hobby. Maybe you are too. And so I really don't plan too much ahead. I do enough of that in my life, so don't want to do that while I'm trying to be creative in this way. Okay, so I've got that layer. Now, of course, I've got this whole front piece, and I don't have enough, so I'm going to now mix some up here. I'm taking a little bit of this black, or you could use your gray you made. It's a little darker than what I've got over there. It's a little bit darker, but I'm okay with that being right here on the front. So I'm going to apply that along this edge here, making sure this is dry and I don't pull the blue into what I've got. You can reactivate even dry paint, so you just have to. It's great for when you're trying to erase something, but not so good when you're trying to go around dry paint. You don't want to reactivate it, and the more intense the color is, the easier it is to spread and show, and harder to erase. So I want to be careful about that. I have a different technique on how to do the stucco, so you can look at the old world townhome and see how, or townhouse, and see how I did it on that video. And you can use that technique here if you want. Okay, I'm kind of losing track of where I'm at here. I'm going to paint this a different color, so I'll leave that alone for now. And I think actually I'm going to come in here and get this as though that part is stucco still. And maybe this piece here. And around this window on the inside here. I'm actually going to do the top of my in that and see if I like it. I can always go over it if I don't. And then now I'm going to paint my windows while I'm waiting for that to dry. And I've picked this kind of, well, not too much yellow in my brush. And I'm just gonna actually put a tiny, I just have barely some of that still in my brush. It's almost a clear brush, and I can dab in some extra, and I want to leave a little bit of the white of the paper showing in each of these windows. Kind of go around the outside, a little bit imperfect, and I'll do that here. I don't want to leave them where they're just squares in the middle. That would look odd, but the light does reflect differently depending on what trees might be around or how the clouds are outside. So, and then these are windows in my painting. You can make them panels if you want. All right, now as far as the surrounds, I think I'm going to go with a kind of brown color. It's a little dark, so put some yellow in there, and let me just try if I put a little orange, make it more vibrant. Okay, so I've got this. I'm going to squeeze some water in it, maybe even move it here, and just be sure I don't put too much on to start. Make sure that I like it. Make this two-toned. I'll have to wait for that to dry, so I can get the windows up here. Fix some of this while I'm waiting for that to dry. And I think I want to, again, just getting absorbed so quickly because I've got so much water mixed in. So I'm adding another layer here just to darken that up. I just didn't want to start off too dark. And I'll pull some of that pigment back. You can see I just put my finger in some of this, so clear brush, scrub at that, and lift that away, and I'll blend that in here. Okay, now I'm going to come in and I think I'll start by leaving white of the paper and see if I like that look. I kind of do, gives it that more watercolor look. I'm going to come in and kind of put a shadow that's not gray, but just sort of its own color with another layer. And you can decide if you want this to be more whimsical or you want it to be a little more detail. If you want to see what it looks like with like a true shadow on it, you can put a little bit of your gray. If you like that better than using the color, you can more than, this is a little bit greenish with the yellow, and because it's got blue, if I use this true black, it won't do that. So you have to think about that ahead of time. But true shadow is cast in its own color, so it actually would look more realistic to be a darker version of its own color versus just always using black as the shadow. But it's a preference on your end result. And as I promised, we kind of come in here and sort of, let's see, I'm going to make a little more green. And kind of copy some of these scallops on this roof line. And I come in here. So you can add, I mixed up a little bit of green if you wanted to just put some green here. Put a sidewalk in if you want. Maybe it doesn't have one. You can add a tree, bushes, anything you want. I've left a margin here so you can frame it. And get a little bit of shadow on that. And put a little bit of shadow